It's Tuesday evening, March 19th, 2002. This is TNT number 9. My meditations have always started for the last 5 years with the beginning of peace, be still and know that I am God. For some reason that caught in my mind, and I knew that I was supposed to start meditations with that. And so I started doing that. And I've done that now many times every day for 5 years. And it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and more things open up. I think I want to talk about that a little bit. The way it always goes is it starts out with peace, be still, and know that I am God. And then it started saying, and I am here. And then it went on to say, and I am all that is here. And that's the basic fundamental point of Advaita Vedanta, and which is the highest teaching. What it says is that all there is God, and the way they would say it in Advaita Vedanta is all there is consciousness. And consciousness is the same as God. Another word for consciousness is I am. The awareness of I am is consciousness. So, I am consciousness. Or you could say, I am is consciousness. So it's also true that you are consciousness. All of you are consciousness. And don't confuse I am consciousness with I am conscious. The eyes in question are different eyes. We tend to think that I'm here and I'm in this body, and in this body is a brain, and in that brain is consciousness, and I'm conscious. And what this is saying is from the entire other end, is that all there is consciousness. And everything that exists is an appearance within consciousness. Everything that exists is in consciousness, including each of these individual eyes that we think are conscious. So the eye that is conscious is just one other appearance within consciousness. Consciousness is the whole thing. All there is consciousness. We tend to think that there are 3 states of consciousness that we experience. There's waking, like we think we are now, and deep sleep, and dreaming. And we can watch ourselves in those three states when we're in deep sleep, where there's really no awareness at all. When we're dreaming, suddenly there's this bubble in our consciousness, this little consciousness that we create called our dream, and it suddenly takes up space, potentially as much space as the universe, and suddenly the dream takes up time, for however long the dream lasts, and often we people our dreams with people, lots of people potentially. Sometimes we put ourselves there so that we're one of the people in our dream, but there are lots of other people in our dream. And sometimes we make the error of identifying during the dream with that copy of ourselves that we've put in our dream. Okay? So that while we're dreaming, we're thinking, if I'm having a dream in which Lee is, in a perilous situation, and I make the error of thinking I'm that Lee, then I'm in that perilous situation. And, my pulse races and my terror comes up and all this stuff goes on. But the fact is that I'm asleep in my bed dreaming. And it's the Lee down in the dream that's got the apparent problem. And in my dream, I've made a mistake of associating, identifying with that Lee. So that's what the dreaming state is, and it's interesting to notice that in our dreaming state, we can not only be there and identify with a copy of ourselves, but we can also create other people. The other people act independently of us. They seem to have their own free will. They seem to be doing whatever they want to do. Some of them are good guys, and some of them are bad guys, and some of them agree with us, and some of them disagree with us, and some of them suggest things to us that we've never even thought of. And yet it's all happening in our dream. Whoa. How is that possible? So that's the dream state. And I want you to notice especially that time and space are within the dream. The dream is not in time and space because the actual dream lasts for a second or two if they had an electrocardiogram on your brain or whatever they call those things, and we're measuring your dream, the actual dream lasted a second or two. But the dream that you experienced often could be a dream that seemed to go on for hours or days. And of course the space, the setting that the dream took place in was never anywhere. Poof, pop, and you wake up. Time appeared. Time never happened. The people that you created never existed. The you that you created and identified with never existed. So that's what the dreaming state looks like. The deep sleep state is the case where there is no time or space. You're in deep sleep. It takes no time at all. You fall into deep sleep and you wake up one instant later and you had 8 hours sleep, or 4, or whatever. So there's no time or space in consciousness. And of course we have this state that we call waking right now, where we're all sitting here in space, in time, with other people here, and all of us are of course associating with one image, a copy of ourselves that we see here, or a copy of something that we think is us. And other people, some of them are doing what we like and some people aren't. And sometimes people say things that amaze us that we've never thought of before. There's no difference at all between this situation right now and the situation that I can create like that in my own dream. So there's three states of consciousness. There's deep sleep, and there's dreaming, and there's waking. But all three of those states of consciousness are happening within consciousness. Within the consciousness that I was talking about when I said all there is consciousness. That consciousness is one step back, and that consciousness is not in time or space. Time and space are within that consciousness, and it creates this part of the three states of consciousness that we call the waking state, and also the sleeping state and the dreaming state. But all there really is that consciousness, and the bubble that's created in that consciousness, which is what we call the universe. So even when it says to me, peace be still, and know that I am God and I am here, we have to be real careful about what that means, I am here. Because when I hear that I am here, I think that that means that God is in this place. And we say that God, consciousness, is omnipresent, which means that God is in every place. But that's not really right. What's really going on is that every place is in God. But God is not really here. God is here-ness. God is the here itself. I mean, here and God are synonymous. All of here. Because the space, the whole universe that we think of, we think of God as filling the universe when we say God is omnipresent, but actually the universe is within God within God or within the consciousness. So the omnipresence really means that God is conscious of everything that God is conscious of. If it's not in consciousness, it doesn't exist, because there's no way of knowing that it exists, because obviously we can't be aware of anything that we're not aware of. If it's not in God's consciousness, it's not. So, since everything is in the consciousness, which we call God consciousness, then everything is here in some sense, but it's not a sense of time and space, because the time and space is one of the, or two of the things that are in the God consciousness. So that's where that meditation has taken me over 5 years of getting deeper and deeper. As we more and more can drop our identification with the image that's within the bubble, as we can relax more and more and stop being so concerned about what's in the bubble, things get more peaceful. It's like well, the very highest teaching that there is silence. When you're silent, then all there is the consciousness. All there is the awareness. If you're really silent, all there is the consciousness without anyone being conscious. Just there is consciousness. Now there's awareness. Like in the sense of, can you be aware that you're aware? Okay, that level of awareness. But you you get closer to that as you do less. If you can get to the point where you can just be without being anything, just be. Like here now. Don't be Lee, or don't be smart, or don't be fast, or don't be clever, or don't be stupid, or don't be inadequate. Just be. That's getting pretty close. If you can just relax and just be, it begins to get quiet and peaceful. If you can just be, you will find yourself peaceful and happy. If you seek peacefulness and happiness, you will find that you have problems. But if you don't seek anything, you will find peace and happiness. Of course, none of us have time to just be. We've got far too many important things to do and stuff to take care of and things to pursue and growth to accomplish and selves to improve and holiness to attain and all this stuff to do. But if you can get back just for a second to the point that you get just a glimpse of the fact that all there is consciousness, and you are that consciousness, then it's transparently clear that none of that important stuff matters at all, because it has nothing to do with you. It's just stuff happening in the consciousness. Like if you're dreaming that you have cancer, it doesn't matter whether you die of the cancer or not in the dream. What matters is how quickly you wake up or how long you stay in the dream and suffer. It doesn't matter whether you get the right doctor in your dream to take care of your cancer or you get the right diagnosis. And it doesn't matter whether the correct drugs are prescribed or the wrong drugs are prescribed, or it doesn't matter if there's enough money for the treatment you require. All these things don't matter for that you in the dream that you think has cancer. I tell the ladies I walk with more times than they want to hear it that who you marry or who you live with or what house you buy or what job you take, none of these things, all these major decisions that we have, what career you pursue, none of these things will have, your decision on any of these points will have absolutely no effect on how you feel about yourself 5 years from today. It won't make any difference. If you buy this house, big house, it won't be big enough in 5 years. If you find this little house, it won't be humble enough in 5 years. Whatever you have today as problems will still be with you in 5 years, regardless of what job you pursue or what house you buy or who you marry or who you divorce or who you live with or what dog you get. Or none of that will have any effect on how you feel about yourself. Just like none of those decisions that you in your dream make will have any effect on you when you wake up. The only thing that will have any effect on you is the extent to which, have any effect on how you'll feel about yourself in 5 years, is the extent to which you wake up during those 5 years. The extent to which you drop your attachment to the dream and begin to realize the fourth state of consciousness, the awake state, the truly awake, as distinct from the small I awake. The whole thing is just so absolutely silly. Here we sit in the dream, talking about waking up. People are taking notes, and it makes no difference at all whether you get it or not, whether you figure it out or not. I mean, you're in my dream. When I wake up, you guys are pop. Or from your viewpoint, I'm in your dream, and there's somebody in your dream who's speaking nonsense. And when you wake up, pop. He never was. She never was. Yes.
But aren't you happier today than you were before you got it?
Oh, yeah.
And it does matter if we get it.
Well, yeah, the dream's nicer, but it has nothing to do with the one who's with the consciousness.
I understand that part.
The consciousness is not happier. The consciousness that I have always been, that you are also, is untouched by Lee's success or failure in waking up. Absolutely untouched. It's like the screen that the movie is shown on. The screen that the movie is shown on doesn't care whether it's a war story or a love story. It makes no difference what happens. The screen is untouched. The consciousness is untouched. And I am the consciousness.
See, for me, it's just a matter of getting to the point where I am living more in the state of knowing that than forgetting that.
But you
You
have known the truth and have been fully awake eternally. And you're discussing the nonsense that's going on in your dream. And I hear you. You'd rather have a nice dream than a nightmare. I hear you. And it has absolutely no effect on you, the consciousness that you are, because that you is no more you than this you. So if you get a sweet dream going over there and there's a nightmare going over here, nothing's different. Of course, consciousness doesn't care about either. Tree, you have a question?
I come to a class and I take the notes, and before I go to sleep at night, I read 1 or 2 pages of these notes, and I wake up the next day and it becomes a part of me, and I go through my day and I have great experiences, and I'm getting closer to becoming awake by using these, and it must be doing something.
I trust that entirely, but the fact is that you are awake and you always have been awake. Nobody was ever asleep. You're identified with the tree body-mind phenomenon, and you want her to become enlightened. And the tree body-mind phenomenon and enlightenment are mutually exclusive. When you realize that that's just an appearance in consciousness, just a thought in consciousness, and that you're that consciousness within which the thought is happening.
But if I didn't come here to hear that, there's no way I'd ever even just know what you just told me.
Who cares? So you have a dream tonight, okay? And one person in your dream gets it and the other person in your dream doesn't get it. What do you care? You're the dreamer. You are the consciousness. And now you're talking about something in your consciousness that Yeah, and what do you care what does the screen care whether the movie is a horror story or a love story? What does the screen care? Just a Leela. Just a play. So you're in the audience and you're watching a Greek tragedy. And then the next night you come and you sit in the audience and you watch a Greek comedy. One time you laugh, the other time you cry, and neither one has any effect on you. You're the audience. You're watching it. Now, if you're watching the tragedy and you think you're Oedipus, if while you're watching the tragedy you identify with Oedipus and think you're him, then you care, okay? But if you remember you're the audience, if you know who you are, then it doesn't matter what happens to Oedipus. It's a good story. It's like they're wondering how well whatever his name was that wrote that play wrote.
There must be some point to this grand delusion.
No point.
No point.
No point. Follow Leela.
That it's like, God interacting with other aspects of God. So there's some purpose for us having these false beliefs that are interacting with these other false beliefs.
Some purpose for God having all these false beliefs, interacting with false beliefs.
Right.
Or entertainment or whatever.
Right.
You can imagine what that.
Right.
But there's certainly, with respect to each of us individually, there's no purpose because there's no us individually. It's all just expression of God. It's all just legal.
So it's just a twisty little joke.
Right. Come on.
Twisty is your word.
Yeah, I threw that in.
It's a great joke. It's a one. Robert calls it a cosmic joke.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we're sitting here in this room and we're talking about this, but could it be that the attachment to our being, if we can just be, it's not a physical being. We need to go beyond the physical being. That's what's truly not here either.
Mm-hmm.
Our physical being is just a vessel. Right now we're living in a vessel. God is in a vessel for this time, this lifespan.
Yeah, it's an appearance in consciousness.
Okay. So, and the consciousness of the whole is intangible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, it's just consciousness, and you can't say anything about it because anything you say would be a concept.
Okay.
And that would be a concept in consciousness, and so that can't possibly describe consciousness. So you can't say anything about it except that it is. No question that there is consciousness.
And the difficulty in understanding it or attaining or getting to the next level would be still attaching it to the concept, or trying to attach it to a concept that our bodies and our minds, as they are today, can interpret.
Are real.
Exist.
Exist. Yes. We think of thoughts as going through consciousness, and then we think of the input to our other five senses as having reality. We think the things we think, the thoughts that go through are of some nebulous, spiritual, not real level of stuff, they have no substance to them, and we think things that we can see or hear or taste or touch or smell are real.
But are they?
Well, any of them are thoughts. I mean, even if you were to believe in this physical reality, what the input to all my five senses by the time I'm dealing with it has been reduced to synapses firing in my brain. Okay, so it's all been reduced to neurons, and there's no difference between, the neurons that are flying around that are saying Vicky than the neurons that are flying around thinking something. They're all thoughts. It's all in the mind. And since you do that every night when you dream, you demonstrate that there is no need for anything to be out there for my mind to create all of this. Every night my mind constructs an entire universe for me, and it is consistent with all five senses. So, what I'm saying is there's no difference between the six senses. That the mind is the thinking portion of the mind is just the sixth sense, and we have things that are presented to all six senses. There's the thing presented to the thinker, and to the eyes, and to the smeller, and to the toucher, and to the feet, all six senses are the same. And that helped me to understand, because I don't think that thoughts are material. And so if I can just get that the input to the other five senses is no more material than thoughts, at least there's no way for me to ever demonstrate to myself that it's more material than thoughts, since I'm capable of creating it out of nothing and not recognizing it whenever I want to. Then it's all that gives me some insight into what it means when I say that it's all just appearance in consciousness. Okay? The Bible even says that God saw things into existence in the Genesis, There was a thought. There was this consciousness that was not active, like in deep sleep. There was this consciousness that was not active, and then it became active, and poof, here's the universe. The one we call real, as distinct from the one we create when we go to sleep tonight. And the fact that we're created in the image of God means that we can do it when we go to sleep tonight. It's all just an image in consciousness. And all there is the one consciousness. And the consciousness that you are, and the consciousness that I am, and the consciousness that Robert is the same consciousness that we can say God is, or all there is consciousness, or when we're silent, we can experience it. But by silent, I don't mean no noise, and by silent, I mean no Lee. When I'm not thinking the I thought, the Lee thought. The illusion that there's a Lee is that there are, the illusion that there's an I, small I, is just that there's this endless succession of thoughts about it. And they have such continuity that I think there's some reality to it. That's all there is. If there's a gap in the thought, if you're not thinking about yourself, you're not there. I mean, you may still see the body, but, I have to think about me to be there. I have to think about my problems to have problems. If I'm not thinking about my problem, it's not a problem in that moment, Then I remember it, and I create the illusion that the problem continued in its own private existence, independent of me, between the last thought and the next thought. But that's nonsense. The fact is, there's only a problem while I'm thinking about it. I have to actually sustain the problem by constantly focusing on it. See?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Oh.
That's how Robert got his blood pressure when he was at the doctor. He had to think about it to get it.
And he forgot it. It slipped his mind, went to zero. Didn't bother him at all. The only one who was concerned about it was the nurse.
Yeah, checking all the blood pressure.
Yeah. What difference did that make? It was just an image, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter whether the image has, you know, what difference does it make whether, from my viewpoint, what the blood pressure is in your body? You know, it's just an image. You know, maybe 200 or 12, what do I know, you know? It makes no difference. The only time I get concerned about it is if I go over there and measure it. You know, now I can be concerned, but as long as you're sitting there smiling and happy and I'm not measuring it, who cares what it is, you know? Very strange. So, since we have to maintain our problems by thinking about them, if we were to stop thinking, there'd be no problems. Isn't that interesting? Talk about a quick way out, huh? Instead of having to solve all these problems, if you would just stop thinking about them, there'd be no problem.
How do you do that?
Quickly.
Before
Right
you go to
now.
the end of your notebook.
Right now is how you do that. Unfortunately, the way you quiet your mind is to let it run out of gas by giving it no energy. That's the fastest way I know. When it thinks, instead of getting all excited about what it's thinking, going to work on it, you just say, oh, thinking. And go back to not thinking. Thinking. If you don't sustain your thoughts, they stop.
Lee, I've been taking the phrase, who would you be if you never thought about yourself at all?
Yeah.
I've been taking that phrase and I've been reading it at night before I go to sleep and taking it throughout my day for I don't know how many days now, but the first 3 or 4 days I was going through the day and really not thinking about myself at all, and then sometimes it would come back, but then I'd remember and I'd go back to that place again, and after about 3 or 4 days, something strange happened. That there was a moment where there was less of me and more of something else, but I don't know what it was. It felt like a presence. There was such a long period of time with no me, that something else started to move in. And it had been a long period when there was really no me, and I was just going through and doing the next thing that needed to be done. But there was only one thing because it was always right now. And pretty soon I just felt something else. And it was kind of a trip. It was like a presence, or it was just something else. That's all I can say.
That's right.
That I felt, and I never felt it before. And you know.
Yeah. It's like if you've always looked at a gray sky, you've been outside your whole life and you've seen a gray sky, and all of a sudden, one day there's a little patch of blue there. And you realize that the only reason you've never seen the blue sky, which is all the way around everything, is because it's been constantly covered with clouds. And those clouds are your thinking. And that blue sky is what you found. That's why I say that silence is the highest teaching. Because no matter how much I talk about that presence, I can't possibly tell you anything about it. Either you've experienced it, or I can say there is such a thing, but I can't say any more about it. Either you've experienced it, or you haven't.
All I know right now is that it was something else. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
You know, I can't even
So there was a gap.
put words in it.
There was an actual gap.
Would that be, I often have days that I'm just so busy accomplishing what I have to do at my job. There's just things come up that I have to take care of. I don't have time to think. And by the end of that extremely busy day, I feel very good because I had no time to think. I just had to do. And I go home more refreshed than the day that I had to work on things to do.
Precisely. Oh, yeah. If you don't have the sense of you doing it.
No, I just do it, yeah.
If it's just happening, and that's what she's talking about, if it's just happening, that's exactly it. I mean, you know, whether you're thinking or not, things are going to happen. I mean, the right things are going to happen. That's all going to keep on going. Your thinking has nothing to do with what you do, it turns out. If you're not doing it, then it just flows, and it takes no energy at all. It's effortless.
I think what I do is I just know it needs to be done and I do it. I don't say, oh, you did that. It's just, no, it needed to be done. You complete the task.
If you're thinking about yourself doing it, it's hard work. How am I going to do this? And gee, I don't know if I can do it, you know, and you bring in all this shit, you know, and grinds you down, and you get about half as much done with 10 times the energy spent doing it, worrying about not being able to or whatever. But if you're not there, it all just gets done all by itself. It's just awesome. And it takes no energy at all. And it takes no time, because you have to think to create time. It requires thought to create time and space.
So is there a way of accomplishing that same thing but not having to do, like, be so busy?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's what she's just saying. She accomplished a great deal without being busy.
But it took her to be busy to get to that place.
But I didn't feel busy. I felt refreshed by the end
No,
of the
but
day.
I hear a question, can you get that place doing stuff that isn't of such a busy nature? And that happened to be what snapped her out. Yeah, of course, you know, you don't ever need to think about anything.
Because I've had days, like you're saying, millions of them, and I know exactly what she's talking about. But now I don't have to be that busy. So could I still get to the same place? Is I guess the question of the.
Yeah, that was what Tree was talking about. The same thing is she spent her day not thinking about who she was, not thinking. You know, you don't ever need to think about anything. Everything will appear as it's needed. You don't have to consciously think to figure stuff out. Answers will come. You don't have to consciously think to remember stuff. Numbers will pop up at the right time. The names will pop up at the right time, or they won't, in which case you didn't need them. And yeah, it's very interesting that we don't ever need to think about anything. But we think we do.
Don't you think that meditation for that?
No, he doesn't.
restful- that restful alertness is a different state of consciousness or a different state, like sleeping. I mean, it doesn't have a totally different feel when you meditate and actually you get to that place that you feel connected.
Yeah.
That's another state of consciousness.
That's the fourth state. Then you're just consciousness. That's the fourth state that I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because there's no I there, no little I. There's the I am. That's the, you know, there is consciousness, and if you're quiet. Yeah. I remember Barbara Mull talks about. She finally got the idea that, you know, she finally realized, you know, the way she says, she finally realized that there is no God. And she's talking with Joel Goldsmith, her teacher, and she said, she got it. She said, I got it. There is no God. And by that she means that there is no God that you can conceive of. You know, that all the concepts of God are wrong. She says, I got it. She says, there is no God. And Joel looks at her and smiles beatifically and says, but there is something. Yeah, we're all talking about the same thing. And I call it the stillness when we're in the silence. is a very different thing, and there's wonderful names for it, hundreds of them. The womb of creation, the potential for the creation, is distinct from the creation. Think of, all there is consciousness, and think of the consciousness before the universe happened, okay? There's nothing there but nothing, okay? Just the potential for this whole Leela. And when you're silent, you're in the potential, as distinct from in the Leela.
So it's not thinking thing, the brain's like really only good for like balancing your checkbook or something. Just use it for
I
that.
tell people over and over.
And sometimes not even that.
The brain is not the right tool for understanding.
Yeah.
The brain is not the right tool for understanding. The brain is marginally useful for telephone numbers and addresses and stuff like that.
And now we have Palm Pilot, so.
I always feel like there's nothing to hold on to when you do this.
Good. That's the question. Who is it that wants to hold on?
It felt very free.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely free. It felt absolutely free.
With no pride.
Mm-hmm. Nothing. Just by constantly not getting involved in your thoughts. That's what that boils down to. I mean, it's a nice device to ask you who you'd be if you weren't thinking about yourself. That's a good way to do it, but because that certainly brings thinking to a halt. Well, that's what koans are for, and all that stuff is to bring thinking to a halt. And that's who you'd be, by the way. That is the answer. That's who you'd be if you never thought about yourself. It's that consciousness in which the activities were taking place. And she's a mother like you, and she's taking care of 2 kids and running her husband's business and doing the books and dashing around marketing and surfing and rollerblading and doing all that stuff, And probably better when she's working on not thinking than when she's thinking about it. And it's fine. Thinking will go away if you don't actively sustain it. And there's no other way for it to go away. As Rajneesh used to say, how shall I stop my mind? With my mind?
It's funny because I've had some small glimpses of what you're talking about. For me, that's big because I don't live by my Palm Pilot anymore. I mean, it was 3 months ago, and I was, that was the big joke in here.
With no room on it for your husband.
Exactly. But now I rarely look at it anymore, and it's so wonderful. And my day still goes, and I still pick up and I drop off and do all these things, and it just does it. you know, I just do it, all these things, and it all works out.
Isn't that amazing?
It is, it's, for me, it's huge.
It's incredible that people were able to design Palm Pilots without Palm Pilots. How did they ever get to the right meetings and hold the right discussions and everything to design Palm Pilots without Palm Pilots? I'm hanging tough. I don't have a pager yet.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Not what I need. My goal in life is to never be important enough to need a pager.
Pagers are old, it's just cell phones now.
Certainly don't want one of those, and I'd be expected to answer it.
I just feel like I'm like dying until truth and freedom is on the other side. And then I'm like, fucking thank God. I mean, otherwise it makes me feel really, ugh, this whole thing. But that makes it sound kind of good.
What I've noticed just since I've been coming here is that you gave me the belief that I could shut it off. I don't think I ever knew I could shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
So I just lived in it. And finally someone gave me an idea that you could not do that.
Yeah, what a shock.
Yeah, truly, a big shock.
One of my favorite situations, which happens fairly often, is when somebody comes up to me and says, "What do you think about so-and-so?" And my answer is invariably, "I don't." They're all so concerned about that. What do you think about this? I don't. Well, the only topic that's left that we haven't really talked about is what I alluded to when I said the truly highest teaching is silence. And we hold that class on Wednesday and Friday and Sunday evenings here every week. And I'm getting so many calls now. Everybody is very much in the middle of the script work and the kid work. So I think maybe what we'll do is start doing Tuesday nights for a get-together to talk about anything we want to talk about relating to the script and the ongoing script and kid work.
Okay.
And I think we'll just do that every Tuesday night. Again at 7 o'clock till 8:30 or so, and just come together, and there will be no talk, there will be no class, there will be no lesson. We'll just talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, questions or experiences or whatever, just to come listen or share or something like that. And I think we'll do that every Tuesday night now during the script and kid stuff, because it's very intense now. There are a lot of people who are really in it and would probably like to have a place to go. And we will continue to have 3 meditations a week where we can come sit in the silence, which really is the quickest way to see the silence, is to sit with people who are in the silence. You will get sucked in. So I think that's what we'll do, unless anybody's got a better idea. And you can come talk about script and kid whether you're in the script or kid workshops or not. But I don't think there's much more to say about the stuff we've done for these 9 talks so far. We've really covered a lot of ground, and I think we can re-listen to those over and over many times and hear more each time for a while. And then we'll do this again maybe in the fall or sometime, we'll start up another series of these. But I think there's plenty of stuff here to listen to over and over. So, let's be quiet just for another minute. I love you all. Thanks for coming.